Yeah, that should do it. Good afternoon, football fans. Big Al here on this Thursday, September 25th, 2025. Welcome to my Week 4 NFL picks, both straight up and against the spread. Plus a look at the injury report for tonight's Seahawks at Cardinals game. So with that, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell and get notified every time I go live. And apologies for not getting this out sooner. My phone was dead, so I had to charge it back up. And that's why I'm running late with the picks this afternoon. So with that, let's get on to my Week 4 NFL picks. First, a Week 3 recap. Pretty underwhelming week last week, as I went 9-7 in my straight up picks and 5-10-1 in my spread picks. So overall for the season, I am 32-16 straight up and 18-29-1 in my spread picks. Hoping for better outcomes here in week number 4. And we're going to kick this one off with Thursday Night Football, which is kicking off in 90 minutes from now. The 2-1 Seattle Seahawks at the 2-1 Arizona Cardinals. This is number 13 and number 14 in my Week 4 power rankings. This game is tonight at 8:15 on Prime with your announcers Al Michaels, Kirk Herbstreit, and Kaylee Hartung. Current point spread Seattle minus 1.5. Over under is set at 43. This is going to be a bit of a low scoring game. I don't trust either of the offenses, especially the Cardinals having lost James Conner for the rest of the season with an ankle injury, I think it was. But yeah, I have the Seahawks taking this one 21-17. I have the game going under 43. And I'm taking the Seahawks minus 1.5 against the spread. Moving on to Sunday, and our second international game of the season sees the 2-1 Minnesota Vikings face off with the 2-1 Pittsburgh Steelers. This game is being played in Dublin, Ireland. And it's an early one. Sunday at 9:30 a.m. on NFL Network. Your announcers will be Joe Davis, Greg Olsen, Pam Oliver, and Jamie Erdahl. Alright, the Vikings are at number 17 in my Week 4 power rankings, while the Steelers are just a spot ahead of them at number 16. Current point spread is Minnesota minus 2.5, and the over-under is at 40.5. I have the Vikings winning this one 24-16. The game finishing just under 40.5. And I'm taking Minnesota minus the 2.5 points. Alright, now to the early portion of the Sunday schedule. You'll have 7 games at 1 p.m. Eastern, including the 1-2 Carolina Panthers at the 1-2 New England Patriots. This is number 24 in my Week 4 power rankings for the Carolina Panthers and number 23 for the Patriots. This game is Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern on Fox. Your announcers are Chris Myers, Mark Schlereth, and Jennifer Hale. Current point spread is New England minus 5, and the over-under is at 43. I think the Patriots bounced back from last week with all those turnovers. They could have easily beaten the Steelers, but I think they get it this week. New England wins 27-17. I have the game finishing just over 43, and I'm taking the Pats at minus 5. Next up, you've got the 1-2 Cleveland Browns at the 2-1 Detroit Lions. Sunday at 1 p.m. on Fox. Your announcers are Kenny Albert, Jonathan Vilma, and Megan O'Leary. Joey's in the house. What's poppin'? Cleveland comes in 25th in my Week 4 power rankings, while Detroit is at number 8. Honestly, I should have put them up higher after beating the Ravens, but that's okay. Current point spread is Detroit minus 10, and the over-under is at 44. This, I think, will be the first real test for this Cleveland Browns defense going up against Jared Goff and this high-powered Lion offense. I have Detroit winning 31-14. I have the game finishing a point ahead of the over-under of 44. And I'm taking the Lions -10. All right, now we got West Coast visiting East Coast. That's the 3-0 Los Angeles Chargers visit the 0-3 New York Giants, who will have Jackson Dart as their starting quarterback this week. Sunday at 1 p.m. on CBS. Your announcers are Kevin Harlan, Trent Green, and Melanie Collins. Current point spread is LA -6.5. Over-under is 44. I have been taking the Giants as the underdog in my ATS picks, and it has failed every time that's happened. So I'm not going to do that again unless I'm really sure they can cover as an underdog. As the case here, I have the Chargers winning 31-17. I have the game shooting over 44, and I'm taking the Bolts at -6.5. Up next is our lock of the week. And it's a pretty obvious lock of the week. The 0-3 New Orleans Saints visit the 3-0 Buffalo Bills. Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern on CBS. Saints are 30th in my Week 4 power rankings, while the Bills remain my top team. Your announcers are Andrew Catalan, Charles Davis, Jason McCourty, and AJ Ross. Current point spread is Buffalo -16.5. And no, that is not a typo. That's the actual point spread. Buffalo -16.5. And the over-under is 47.5. All right, we saw the Saints in this spot get blown out by the Seahawks last week, and I'm expecting more of the same here. These two teams are night and day from each other. The Bills, definite Super Bowl contenders, while the Saints may possibly have a top 5 draft pick, maybe even the number 1 overall pick in the 26th draft. I have Buffalo winning this one 41-14, the game going over 47.5, and I'm taking the Bills with that massive 16.5 point spread. And then after our lock of the week, we have our game of the week. The 3-0 Philadelphia Eagles at the 3-0 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Sunday at 1 p.m. on Fox. Your announcers are Kevin Burkhardt, Tom Brady, Aaron Andrews, and Tom Rinaldi. And it's just like last week's Rams-Eagles matchup, where you had number 6 versus number 2. The Eagles remain number 2 in my Week 4 power rankings, while the Buccaneers move to number 6. Current point spread is Philadelphia -3.5, and the over-under is at 43.5. Now, we did have some players get put on injured reserve, so they'll be out at least the next 4 games, including Nolan Smith on our defense, as well as Adoree Jackson. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers also have injury concerns of their own. They had just lost Mike Evans with an injury, but they may be getting Chris Godwin back and possibly Tristan Wirfs on that offensive line. But knowing the history between these two teams, the Eagles seem to always struggle against the Buccaneers, especially in Tampa Bay. That's why I'm taking the Bucs to win 28-23. I have the game going over 43.5, and I'm taking Tampa plus the 3.5 as the home underdog. So we go from a matchup with unbeaten teams to one of 2 matchups this week with 2 winless teams. We have the 0-3 Tennessee Titans at the 0-3 Houston Texans in a battle for the basement in the AFC South. Sunday at 1 p.m. on CBS. Your announcers are Beth Mowins, Ross Tucker, and Amanda Balionis. All right, the Titans remained at number 32 in my Week 4 power rankings, while the Texans are at number 21. And I'm going to be real honest, I should have dropped them well lower than 21. I probably should have put them at like 25 or 26, but that's I'm not even going to dwell over that. Current point spread is Houston -7. The over-under is 38.5. Now, we all know the Texans' offense is horrible. And the Tennessee Titans on both sides of the ball are worse. I think this is the game the Texans finally get in the win column. That said, I have Houston winning 21-16. I got the game finishing under 38.5. But I am taking Tennessee with the 7 points. So I think it's going to be a much closer game than everyone expects. And then the last of the early afternoon games has the 2-1 Washington Commanders visiting the 1-2 Atlanta Falcons. Sunday at 1 p.m. on CBS. Your announcers are Ian Eagle, J.J. Watt, and Evan Washburn. All right, the Commanders are at number 9 in my Week 4 power rankings. The Falcons, after being embarrassed by the Panthers last week, fell to number 22. Current spread is a pick'em, although most places have Washington as a slight 1-point favorite, and the over-under is at 45.5. I trust the Commanders more than I do the Falcons. And with that, I have Washington winning this game 24-20. I have the game going under 45.5, just a little bit. And I'm taking the Commanders. I have it written down as a pick'em, but it's actually now Washington -1, as these lines did update from the time I wrote these odds down yesterday. Okay, moving on to our late games, starting off with the 3-0 Indianapolis Colts at the 2-1 Los Angeles Rams. Sunday at 4:05 on Fox. Your announcers are Kevin Kugler, Daryl Johnston, and Allison Williams. And no, that's not the actress Allison Williams, but the sideline reporter Allison Williams. Wanted to clear up a little bit of confusion there. Current point spread is LA -3.5, and the over-under is 49.5. I have written down that the Colts would win 27-24, but I'm going to flip that in reverse. I think the Rams should take this one by that 27-24 count. I have the game going over 49.5. And I'm taking the Rams at -3.5. So there's a little change on the fly for you. Next up, the 2-1 Jacksonville Jaguars face off with the 3-0 San Francisco 49ers. This is also on Fox at 4:05 Eastern. Your announcers are Adam Amin, Mark Sanchez, and Christina Pink. All right, Jaguars are 18th in my Week 4 power rankings, while the 49ers are at number 4, which may be way too high than most people, but I'm not even going to trip. Current point spread is San Francisco -3, and the over-under is 47.5. But there are some injuries on the 49ers side that may sway my pick to be different than what I have. We all know about Nick Bosa. He's out for the season. But the two players I'm looking at particularly are Brock Purdy and Jawan Jennings. Brock may return on Sunday, possibly even Jennings. Now, if both play, I have the 49ers winning 26-20. The game will go under 47, and I'm taking San Francisco at -3. However, if they don't play, this may be an opportunity for the Jaguars to pull the upset. If they don't play, it would be Jacksonville 24, San Francisco 17. And the game would again go under 47, and I would take Jacksonville with the 3 points. Again, that's if Brock Purdy and Jawan Jennings don't play. If they do play, the Niners should win. Okay, on to game 2 of the doubleheader for CBS, starting off with the main game, which most everyone will be seeing. And that's the 1-2 Baltimore Ravens at the 1-2 Kansas City Chiefs. Sunday at 4:25 on CBS. Your announcers are Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, and Tracy Wolfson. All right. Baltimore slipped to number 7 in my Week 4 power rankings after Monday night's loss to the Lions, while the Chiefs moved up to 12 after their Sunday night victory over the New York Giants. Current point spread is Baltimore minus 2.5, and the over-under is 48.5. Now, I had initially taken the Chiefs to win this game, but I have since reversed course, and I think the Ravens should take this one. 23-20, Baltimore wins. The game goes under 48.5, but I won't be surprised if both offenses slug it out. And I'm taking the Ravens minus 2.5. And then everyone else not getting the Ravens and Chiefs will get the 1-2 Chicago Bears and the 1-2 Las Vegas Raiders. Sunday at 4:25 on CBS. The announcers here are Spiro Ditas, Adam Archuleta, and Aditi Kinkawala. All right. And they're ranked next to each other in the power rankings as well. The Bears are at number 26, while the Raiders are at 27. Current point spread is a pick'em, and the over-under is at 48. I don't think there's going to be a lot of points in this game. I am taking the Raiders, though, to win 23-16. I have the game going well under 48, and I'm taking Vegas as a pick'em. Some areas have the Bears favored, and some may have the Ravens, or not the Ravens, but the Raiders favored. All right, moving on to Sunday Night Football, and a big one we have on tap as Micah Parsons returns to AT&T Stadium for the first time as a visitor, as his 2-1 Green Bay Packers visit the 1-2 Dallas Cowboys. Sunday night at 8:20 on NBC. Your announcers are Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, and Melissa Stark. The Packers, after their upset loss in Cleveland, fell to number 5 in my Week 4 power rankings, while the Cowboys, who got obliterated by the Bears, are down to number 20. And really, I should have Dallas much lower than this. Current point spread is Green Bay minus 6.5, and the over-under is 47. Now, I don't see any chance for the Dallas Cowboys to win this game. Of course, they traded away Micah Parsons a week before the season starts. And now CeeDee Lamb is out with an injury, which he suffered last week against Chicago. So that makes things more challenging for Brian Schottenheimer's team. All right, I have the wrong final score here. It should be Packers 34, Cowboys 14, I think. Yeah, 34-14. That sounds about right. The game will go over 47, and I'm taking Green Bay minus 6.5. And then we have another Monday Night Football doubleheader. First, we have the other toilet bowl this week. The 0-3 New York Jets at the 0-3 Miami Dolphins. Monday night at 7:15 on ESPN. Your announcers are Chris Fowler, Dan Orlovsky, Louis Riddick, Peter Schrager, and Katie George. The winless Jets are at number 28 in my Week 4 power rankings, while the winless Dolphins are at number 31. Current point spread is Miami minus 3, and the over-under is 45. I thought this was going to be a difficult game to pick, given that both teams were winless. But I think the Dolphins are the better team here in this matchup. I have Miami winning 24-17. The game will go under 45, and I'm taking the Fins at minus 3. And then to wrap up Week 4, you have the 2-1 Cincinnati Bengals at the 1-2 Denver Broncos. That's Monday night at 8:15 on ABC. Your announcers are Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Lisa Salters, and Laura Rutledge. Current point spread is Denver minus 7.5, and the over-under is 44. I have been very unimpressed with this Broncos team here in the early going. The defense is not looking as stout as it did last season, but they are leading the league in sacks once again, so there's that. Offensively, Bo Nix may be in a bit of a sophomore slump because he hasn't been performing all that well either. And then you know about the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow was out at least 3 months after having toe surgery. And Jake Browning just got decimated by Carson Wentz and the Vikings last week, which led to the worst blowout loss in Bengals history. I think this is a get-right spot for Cincinnati, but I do have the Broncos at home winning 23-20. The game will go under 44, but I am taking Cincinnati plus the 7.5 points, because I think that's an awfully big spread for the Broncos to cover. All right, we're going to wrap this up with a look at the Thursday Night Football injury report for the Seattle Seahawks and the Arizona Cardinals. And we'll start with the visiting Seahawks. Guard Anthony Bradford is questionable with a back injury. Running back Zach Charbonnet is questionable with a running back, but it looks like he will play tonight. Safety Nick Emanwari is doubtful tonight with an ankle. Meanwhile, offensive tackle Josh Jones is out with an ankle. And linebacker Boye Mafe is questionable with a toe injury. Sorry about that. Other names listed include tight end Elijah Arroyo, linebacker Ernest Jones, safety Julian Love, center Jalen Sundell, defensive end Leonard Williams, and cornerback Devin Witherspoon, who are all full participants in practice. Also listed is fullback Robbie Outs, who did not partake in practice, so I am not expecting him to play at all. And for the Arizona Cardinals, they have a bunch of injuries. Offensive tackle Kelvin Beachum is questionable with a knee, but he is getting rest, so it's non-injury related. So we will not see Beachum on the O-line for Arizona tonight. Also, guard Evan Brown is questionable with an ankle. Linebacker Akeem Davis-Gaither also questionable with an elbow. Cornerback Darren Hall is questionable with an ankle. Guard Will Hernandez is questionable with a knee. Rookie corner Will Johnson has been downgraded to doubtful with a groin. Offensive tackle Paris Johnson Jr. is questionable with a knee. And wide receiver Zay Jones is out tonight with a concussion. Other names listed include defensive tackle Calais Campbell and running back James Conner. Neither did not partake in practice. And of course, you know about James Conner. He had a season-ending injury, so we will not see him again in 2025, unfortunately. And those are my Week 4 NFL picks, both straight up and against the spread. Here's hoping that I do much better than last week. Plus your injury report for the Seahawks and the Cardinals, which will be kicking off in a little more than an hour from now. All right, we'll be back with the rest of the Week 4 injury report on Sunday, right around 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, so make sure you join me then. In the meantime, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, ring the bell, and get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching, and enjoy the pigskin. Peace out.